The transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Keth 9. Jiwoo gripped her seat, feeling the heat through the metal walls. Around her, 50 other humans sat in tense silence. This was their first real deployment. Training was over. Through the small window, Jiwoo watched an alien world rush past. Purple vegetation, strange rock formations, and somewhere down there, the swarm. The enemy they had been trained to fight. The ship landed hard. The door opened and hot alien air rushed in. It smelled wrong, like metal and something rotten. Commander Velshara's voice came through their communication devices, cold and clear. Human units will advance sector by sector. Make contact with enemy forces. Report positions. Hold as long as possible. We will send reinforcements if you prove worthy. If, Jiwoo noticed, not when Taeyang checked his weapon for the third time. They're sending us to die. Yes, Sang-ho said from nearby. That's what expendable means. We're here to locate the enemy so the real soldiers can fight them. Then we don't follow their plan, Jiwoo said quietly. She was studying a portable map display. The terrain showed hills, valleys, and structures that might be ruins. We do this our way. Our way? Hirin asked nervously. Jiwoo, we can't just ignore orders. They'll punish us. They'll punish us for dying too, Jiwoo replied. At least this way we might survive. She gathered her squad close and showed them the map. Look, they want us to march straight through this valley. Perfect place for an ambush. Instead, we take the high ground here. Move slowly, watch for movement, set up defensive positions. That's desertion, another soldier said, fear in his voice. That's survival, Sang-ho said, backing Jiwoo up. I say we trust her. She got us through training alive. The squad moved out, but not in the direction Velshara had ordered. They climbed into the hills, moving carefully through the alien landscape. Jiwoo led them, constantly watching, listening, and thinking. 2 hours later, they heard it, screaming over the radio. Another human squad following orders had marched into the valley. The swarm had been waiting. The screams lasted less than a minute, then nothing but static. Taeyang looked sick. That could have been us. That's why we didn't go, Jiwoo said, though her hands were shaking. She had just saved 50 lives by disobeying orders. The weight of that decision felt crushing. From their position in the hills, they saw movement in the valley below. Swarm drones, hundreds of them, dark and insect-like, moving with terrible purpose. They looked like the holograms from training, but worse. Real. Deadly. Weapons ready, Jiwoo whispered. Don't fire until I say. The swarm passed below them, moving toward where the next human unit would be. Jiwoo watched their patterns, counting, calculating. Hirin, she said. Can you rig the power cells from our equipment to explode? Yes, but it won't be stable. Could go off any time. Good. We'll use that. Jiwoo outlined her plan. They would set charges along the valley floor, then lure the swarm into a kill zone. It was risky. It might not work. But doing nothing meant eventual death anyway. They worked quickly. Hirin prepared the improvised explosives with shaking hands. Taeyang and the others set them in position. Jiwoo calculated timing and escape routes. Then came the hard part. Someone had to bait the trap. I'll do it, Taeyang said immediately. No, Jiwoo said. You're too valuable in a fight. I'll go. Jiwoo, Taeyang started. That's an order, she said, surprised at the authority in her own voice. When had she become someone who gave orders? Jiwoo moved down into the valley, making herself visible. The swarm noticed immediately. Dozens of drones turned toward her with mechanical precision. She ran. Behind her, the swarm followed. They were fast, terrifyingly fast, but Jiwoo had mapped her route carefully. She knew every rock, every turn, every place where she could gain a few precious seconds. Her heart hammered. Her lungs burned. The alien air was thicker than Earth's, harder to breathe. Behind her, she could hear the clicking sounds of swarm drones closing in. Almost there. Just a little further. She dove behind cover just as Hirin triggered the explosives. The valley erupted. Swarm drones were thrown into the air, torn apart by the blast. The sound was deafening. Rocks and debris rained down. When the dust cleared, dozens of swarm drones lay destroyed. The survivors scattered in confusion. Now, Jiwoo shouted into her comm. Her squad opened fire from the hills. Caught in the open. Confused by the unexpected attack, the swarm fell quickly. Within minutes, the entire swarm force was eliminated. 50 humans had just defeated hundreds of enemy drones. The radio erupted with excited chatter from other human units who had monitored the battle. But another voice cut through, cold with fury. Squad 4721, this is Commander Velshara. You disobeyed direct orders. We completed the mission, Jiwoo replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Enemy forces located and eliminated. You were ordered to advance through the valley. That was a suicide run, Commander. We found a better way. Silence on the line. Then, return to base immediately. You will be disciplined. But before Velshara could say more, another voice interrupted. Deeper, rougher. Overseer Tharn, the reptilian officer Jiwoo had seen at the training facility. Belay that order, Commander. Squad 4721 achieved victory with 0 casualties. That is worth more than blind obedience. Overseer, the human defied. The human won. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we've been using them wrong. Jiwoo's squad exchanged glances. Were they being praised or punished? It was hard to tell. All human units knew orders. Tharn continued. You are authorized to use independent judgment in tactical situations. Adapt to circumstances. Survive. Win. Show us what humans can really do. The radio channels exploded with excited human voices. Something had changed. They weren't just cannon fodder anymore. They were soldiers. That night, back at the base, Jiwoo's squad celebrated quietly. They had survived their first real battle. More than survived, they had won. Sang-ho pulled Jiwoo aside. You know what you did today? You didn't just save your squad. You changed how every human unit will fight from now on. The others heard what you did. They'll copy your tactics. I just wanted us to live, Jiwoo said, and that's why they'll follow you. Not because of orders. Because you care about keeping them alive. Later, Jiwoo stood alone, looking up at the alien sky. Somewhere up there, Earth was orbiting around the sun, impossibly far away. She thought about her old life, sitting in the back of the cafeteria, invisible and unimportant. That girl felt like a stranger now. Velshara watched Jiwoo from a distance, mandibles clicking with agitation. This human had defied orders and been rewarded for it. She had fought in a way that made no sense by coalition doctrine and won. Worse, other humans were already imitating her. This was dangerous. This was chaos. This was exactly what the coalition might need, even if Velshara would never admit it. The invisible girl had become visible, whether she wanted it or not. The training facility was a nightmare built in space. Jiwoo and the other humans were moved to a massive station orbiting Earth. Through the windows, she could see her home planet, blue and beautiful and impossibly far away. The station was cold, the air smelled strange, and everything was designed for creatures that were not human. Commander Velshara gathered them in a huge training hall. Hundreds of humans stood in confused groups, looking at equipment they didn't understand and obstacles that seemed impossible to overcome. Today you begin training, Velshara announced. You will complete the basic physical tests. All coalition soldiers complete these tests. We do not expect most of you to pass. We expect most of you to fail and prove how worthless your species truly is. The first test was simple. Carry a weight across the room, except the weight was designed for aliens with 4 arms and twice the strength of humans. One by one, humans tried and failed. Some couldn't even lift it. Those who could lift it couldn't carry it more than a few steps before dropping it. Jiwoo watched carefully. She noticed that the weight had handles on all 4 sides. It was meant to be balanced between multiple arms. But what if you didn't try to carry it the way aliens did? When her turn came, Jiwoo didn't try to lift the weight. Instead, she tipped it onto its side and rolled it across the floor. It took longer, but she made it to the other side. An alien guard stepped forward, mandibles clicking with what might have been anger. That is not how the test is done. Jiwoo looked up at the towering creature. You said to move it across the room. You didn't say how. Velshara, watching from above, made a sound that might have been disgust. Pass next. Other humans watched Jiwoo with new interest. A few tried her method. The guards looked frustrated but couldn't argue with the results. The second test was worse. An obstacle course filled with walls too high to climb, gaps too wide to jump, and barriers that seemed designed for creatures that could fly or phase through solid objects. Humans failed by the dozens. Some got injured trying. The alien medics treated them with rough efficiency, like they were fixing broken tools instead of helping people. Jiwoo studied the course. Alone it was impossible. But what if they worked together? She turned to the person next to her, a tall young man with an athlete's build looking frustrated and angry. She had never spoken to a stranger before, not really, but desperation made her brave. "What's your name?" she asked quietly. He looked surprised that she was talking to him. "Taeyang, I'm Jiwoo. I think I know how to beat this course, but I need help." Taeyang studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Tell me what to do." Jiwoo explained her idea. Then she gathered a few more humans who were willing to listen. They practiced quickly, working out the timing. When their turn came, they moved as a team. Taeyang boosted Jiwoo over the first wall. Then she dropped a rope made from their uniform belts to pull him up. They formed a human pyramid to reach high obstacles. They created a chain to swing across gaps. It wasn't fast. It wasn't pretty. But they finished the course. Velshara watched in silence. When they completed it, she said nothing. But Jiwoo saw something in the commander's alien eyes that hadn't been there before. Not respect. Something closer to concern. That night, in the barracks where humans slept on hard bunks, Taeyang sat next to Jiwoo. "You're smart," he said. "Back home, I was captain of my soccer team. I thought being strong and fast was enough. But here, none of that matters." "It matters," Jiwoo said quietly. "We just have to use it differently." A young woman approached them. She had the careful movements of someone who thought too much before acting. "I'm Hirin," she said. "I was studying engineering before this. I've been watching the equipment they give us. It's not optimized for human hands, but I think I can modify it." "Can you really do that?" Taeyang asked. "If they don't catch me," Hirin said with a small, nervous smile. Over the next weeks, the three of them became a team. Hirin figured out how to adjust the alien weapons for human grip. Taeyang used his athletic training to teach others how to move more efficiently. Jiwoo watched, learned, and found patterns in everything. But it was never easy. One day, Velshara assigned them punishment duty. The entire human unit had to clean a massive storage bay. The task was meant to take days, meant to break their spirits. Jiwoo organized them into groups. One group moved supplies. Another cleaned. A third organized. They created a system, a rhythm. Humans were good at working together in ways the aliens weren't. They finished in 6 hours. Velshara inspected their work with visible displeasure. Everything was perfect. She had wanted them to fail, to prove humans were useless. Instead, they had succeeded, dismissed, Velshara said coldly. But as the humans filed out, Jiwoo heard the commander speaking to another alien officer. They adapt. That's concerning. The real test came during their first combat simulation. The humans were placed in a training room with holographic enemies. Swarm drones, the aliens explained. The creatures they would fight in real combat. Insect-like killing machines that moved fast and attacked without mercy. Most human groups panicked when the simulation started. The holograms felt real, looked real, and the pain receptors in their training suits made the attacks feel real too. Humans scattered, ran, died in the simulation within minutes. When Jiwoo's group entered, she made them stop and watch first. "There," she said, pointing. "See how they attack? They come from the same directions every time. It's a pattern." "What good is a pattern?" Taeyang asked, tension in his voice. "Patterns can be exploited," Jiwoo said. "Hirin, can you rig something explosive from our equipment?" "Probably," Hirin said, already examining her weapon pack. "Taeyang, you're the fastest. Can you lead them into a trap?" He grinned. "I can try." They executed the plan. Taeyang drew the holographic swarm into a narrow corridor. Hirin's improvised explosive destroyed most of them. Jiwoo directed the others to pick off the survivors from defensive positions. Their group survived the full simulation. Velshara reviewed the recordings afterward. She watched Jiwoo's team work together, watched them think and plan and adapt. Finally, she called for an older human, a man named Sang-ho who had military experience before the invasion. "That one," Velshara said, pointing at Jiwoo on the screen, the quiet female. "She's organizing them. Watch her closely." Sang-ho studied the recording. "You're afraid of her." "Don't be ridiculous," Velshara snapped. "I'm concerned about unpredictability. Humans don't follow proper military doctrine. It's chaos." "Maybe chaos is what you need," Sang-ho said quietly. That night, Sang-ho found Jiwoo in the barracks. "You're doing good work," he said. "Keep it up. And be careful. They're noticing you now," Jiwoo nodded. Being noticed was dangerous. But being invisible wouldn't save humanity. She had made her choice. Jiwoo sat in the back corner of the cafeteria, eating her lunch alone. Around her, students laughed and talked with their friends. Nobody looked at her. Nobody ever looked at her. She was used to it. For 3 years, she had been invisible at Seoul Central High School. She arrived early, left late, and spoke to no one in between. Her classmates walked past her desk without seeing her. Teachers sometimes forgot her name, even though she never missed a day. Jiwoo didn't mind anymore. Being invisible was safe. Being invisible meant no one bothered her. She opened her book and read while she ate, letting the noise of the cafeteria wash over her like background music. The bell rang. Jiwoo gathered her things and walked to class. In the hallway, a group of students rushed past, almost knocking her bag from her hands. They didn't apologize. They hadn't noticed. In class, the teacher called attendance. When she reached Jiwoo's name, she paused and looked around the room with confusion. Her eyes passed right over Jiwoo before finally landing on her. "Oh, you're here. I didn't see you," the teacher said. Jiwoo said nothing. What was there to say? She had been sitting in the same seat for 3 years. The lesson began. Jiwoo took notes carefully, her handwriting neat and small. She understood everything but never raised her hand. Speaking meant being noticed, and being noticed meant questions, attention, things she had learned to avoid. After school, Jiwoo walked home through the busy streets of Seoul. The city was alive with people, cars, and noise. She moved through it all like a ghost, unseen and unheard. At home, her aunt barely acknowledged her. Jiwoo had lived with her since her parents died 5 years ago. Her aunt provided food and shelter, but nothing more. No warmth, no conversation, no connection. Jiwoo did her homework, ate dinner alone in her room, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be the same as today. Next week would be the same as this week. Her life was a pattern of invisible days. But that night, everything changed. Jiwoo woke to a sound she had never heard before. It was deep and loud, like thunder that wouldn't stop. She went to her window and looked out at the night sky. The stars were disappearing. No, not disappearing. Something was covering them. Enormous shapes, dark and massive, were descending from space. Ships. Alien ships. Jiwoo's heart pounded. She grabbed her phone. The screen was filled with emergency alerts. Every channel showed the same thing. Huge vessels hovering over every major city on Earth. Her aunt burst into her room, fear clear on her face. For once, she looked directly at Jiwoo. "We need to go," her aunt said. "Now." But where could they go? The ships were everywhere. Jiwoo looked out the window again. People were running in the streets. Cars crashed into each other. Panic was spreading like fire. Then the ships began to speak. Every screen, every phone, every television showed the same image. A creature stood before them, tall and insect-like, with 4 arms and dark, shining armor. Its voice was cold and mechanical, translated into every language on Earth. "People of Earth, I am Commander Velshara of the Galactic Coalition. Your world is now part of the Coalition. You have been chosen to serve in our war against the Swarm. All humans between the ages of 15 and 25 will report for military service. This is not a request. This is conscription. Resistance will be met with force. You have 1 day to comply." The transmission ended. Jiwoo stood frozen, her mind racing. Military service? War? What war? Who was the Swarm? Her aunt was crying now, but Jiwoo barely noticed. She was 17. She would be taken. The next day, the ships began collecting humans. They didn't need to use force. People went willingly, too afraid to resist. Jiwoo walked to the designated gathering point with thousands of others. Young people, all looking scared and confused. Large transport vehicles waited for them. Not trucks or buses, but alien craft that hummed with strange energy. Jiwoo climbed aboard with the others. Inside, the seats were uncomfortable, clearly not made for human bodies. As the transport lifted off, Jiwoo looked out the window. Seoul grew smaller below her. She watched her home disappear, wondering if she would ever see it again. The transport took them to one of the massive ships orbiting Earth. Inside, everything was metal and cold light. The corridors were too wide, the ceilings too high. This place was not built for humans. Alien soldiers herded them through processing. They were scanned, tagged, and assigned numbers. Jiwoo's number was 4721. Nobody asked her name. They were taken to a large holding area with hundreds of other humans. Everyone looked terrified. Some were crying. Others sat in shocked silence. A few tried to act tough, but Jiwoo could see the fear in their eyes too. She found a quiet corner and sat down, watching everything. This was what she did best, observe. While others panicked or cried or shouted questions that nobody answered, Jiwoo paid attention. She noticed the alien guards changed shifts every few hours. She noticed which doors they used and which ones stayed locked. She noticed the patterns of when food was delivered and when the lights dimmed for sleep. Nobody noticed her noticing. After what felt like days, but might have been hours, Commander Velshara appeared before them. The insect-like alien stood on a raised platform looking down at the mass of frightened humans. "You are now soldiers of the Galactic Coalition," Velshara said, her voice echoing through the hall. "You will be trained. You will fight. You will follow orders without question. Most of you will die. This is your purpose now. This is all you are worth to us." She paused, her alien eyes scanning the crowd with something that looked like contempt. "You are the lowest species in the Coalition. Weak, slow, primitive. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. You are barely better than animals. But you are numerous and we need numbers. So you will serve, and you will die for a cause greater than your pathetic world." The words hit the humans like physical blows. Some cried harder. Others looked angry but helpless. Jiwoo sat in the back where nobody could see her and thought one clear thought. We'll see about that. She didn't know how. She didn't know when. But somewhere deep inside, in a place that had stayed hidden for years, Jiwoo felt something wake up. Not anger, not fear. Something quieter but stronger. Determination. The invisible girl had been noticed by aliens who thought humans were worthless. They had made a mistake. They had given her nothing left to lose. And Jiwoo was done being invisible. 6 months had passed since the battle at Keth 9. Jiwoo stood in a command room she never thought she would see, looking at star maps of war zones across Coalition space. She wore a commander's insignia now, though she still felt like a scared girl pretending to be a soldier. But pretending or not, she was winning. Human casualties had dropped by half. Victory rates had tripled. Word of Jiwoo's tactics had spread through every human unit. They fought differently now, adapting and improvising instead of following rigid alien doctrine. The galaxy was noticing. "Commander Jiwoo," an alien officer said, entering the room. He was Vrex, reptilian and tall. "The High Command wishes to see your latest tactical report, Commander." They called her Commander now. Jiwoo, who had once been too invisible for her own teacher to remember, was now briefing alien generals. "The report is ready," she said, pulling up data displays. "Human forces are requesting more autonomy in their operations." "We need permission to ignore orders," the Vrex officer interrupted, but not angrily. "Yes, we have heard this request many times. It troubles the High Command. It shouldn't. It works." "That's precisely what troubles them." Taeyang entered, limping slightly from an injury he had gotten 2 weeks ago. He refused to leave active duty. "Jiwoo, we have a problem. Coalition Command wants us to assault a fortified swarm position head-on. Standard frontal assault." Jiwoo looked at the battle plan he showed her. Her stomach sank. "That's suicide. We'll lose hundreds, that's what I said." "They said those were our orders. Then we don't follow them." Taeyang grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that." The fortress was a swarm stronghold on a planet called Thelios 7. 3,000 swarm drones defended it, with reinforcements arriving daily. Coalition forces had been stalled there for weeks. High Command wanted a breakthrough, and they were willing to sacrifice human lives to get it. Jiwoo studied the intelligence reports for hours. Hyarin worked beside her, analyzing the fortress structure and swarm defensive patterns. "They expect a frontal assault because that's what the Coalition always does," Hyarin said. "The swarm defenses are all oriented that way." "Then we come from a different direction," Jiwoo said. "What if we pretend to attack from the front, but it's just a distraction? A small force making a lot of noise while the real attack comes from behind? The swarm will figure it out," Sang-ho warned. He had become her unofficial advisor, using his military experience to guide her. "They adapt quickly. Then we make them adapt the wrong way. We make the distraction so convincing, they commit everything to stopping it. By the time they realize the truth, we're already inside." It was risky. It required perfect timing. If anything went wrong, the distraction force would be slaughtered. Jiwoo volunteered to lead the distraction herself. Absolutely not, Taeyang said immediately. You're too important. If we lose you, we lose our best commander. And if I send others to die while I stay safe, I'm no better than the aliens who see us as expendable, Jiwoo replied. I won't ask anyone to take risks I won't take myself. Hierin touched her arm gently. Jiwoo, you've changed so much from the quiet girl in training. But don't lose yourself trying to be a hero. I'm not trying to be a hero, Jiwoo said. I'm trying to keep people alive. The assault began at dawn. Jiwoo led 300 humans in a loud, obvious attack on the fortress's main entrance. They fired every weapon, set off explosives, and made as much noise as possible. The swarm responded exactly as predicted, pouring forces toward the threat. Meanwhile, Taeyang led the real assault force around the back. 2,000 humans moving silently, using every trick Hierin had taught them about avoiding swarm sensors. At the front, Jiwoo's force was getting hammered. They took cover behind rocks and destroyed vehicles, firing and falling back, firing and falling back. The swarm pressed forward, sensing victory. Any time now would be good, Jiwoo muttered, checking her comm for word from Taeyang. An explosion rocked the fortress from behind. Then another. Then dozens more. We're in. Taeyang's voice crackled over the radio. Heavy fighting, but we're pushing through. The swarm forces at the front suddenly stopped advancing. They turned, confused, receiving orders to fall back and defend the fortress interior. Their hive mind was trying to adapt, but it was too late. Jiwoo's distraction force charged forward while the swarm was disorganized. They poured into the fortress behind the retreating enemy. Now it was the swarm that was trapped between two human forces. The battle was brutal. Close quarters fighting in narrow corridors, humans and swarm drones tangled together in desperate combat. But humans fought with something the swarm didn't understand: individual initiative. Every soldier made decisions, adapted to changing situations, covered their comrades without being ordered. When it was over, the fortress had fallen. 1,200 humans had defeated 3,000 swarm drones, but the cost was heavy. 84 humans had died. Another 200 were injured. Jiwoo walked through the medical bay after the battle, looking at the wounded. Some smiled at her, proud of their victory. Others stared at nothing, shocked by the horror they had survived. One young woman, barely 18, cried quietly in her bunk. Jiwoo sat beside her. What's your name? Sujin, the girl whispered. Are you hurt? No, I killed them. I killed so many. I can still feel my weapon firing, still see them falling. Does it get easier? Jiwoo thought about lying, about telling this girl what she wanted to hear. But she owed her the truth. No, Jiwoo said. It doesn't get easier. And if it ever does, that's when you need to worry. Feeling this means you're still human. Hold on to that. Sujin nodded, wiping her eyes. News of the victory spread quickly. Coalition Command was forced to acknowledge it publicly. The human commander who had won an impossible battle became famous across dozens of worlds. Alien soldiers spoke her name with respect or fear, depending on their species. But back on Earth, in a refugee center that had once been a high school, a teacher received the news and smiled. She remembered a quiet girl who sat in the back of her class, a girl she had barely noticed. Good for you, Jiwoo, the teacher whispered. In the Coalition Command Station, Velshara watched battle recordings of the fortress assault. She watched Jiwoo lead from the front, watched humans fight with coordination and creativity that shouldn't be possible. They're becoming dangerous, she said to no one in particular. Overseer Tharn, standing nearby, made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. They always were dangerous. We just didn't notice. That night, Jiwoo received an encrypted message from Earth. It was from that same teacher, somehow routed through military channels. It simply said, "They told us about you. They said you were nobody. They were wrong. Come home safe." Jiwoo read the message 3 times. Then for the first time in months, she cried. Not from fear or pain or stress, but from something warmer. Recognition, being seen, being remembered. The invisible girl was invisible no more. 1 year into the war, the coalition was losing. Jiwoo stood in the War Council chamber, surrounded by alien generals who barely acknowledged her presence. She was 19 now, a full commander, but still the only human in this room, still an outsider. The holographic display showed the truth in cold numbers. 3 core worlds had fallen to the swarm. Dozens more were under siege. The coalition's conventional tactics were failing. The swarm had adapted to every strategy the aliens used. "We need to withdraw forces from the outer rim," one general said. His species looked like walking crystals, hard and cold. "Consolidate our defenses." "That means abandoning billions of people," another argued. "Better than losing everything." Jiwoo listened in silence. They had been arguing for hours. None of them wanted to admit the obvious truth. They were losing because they kept fighting the same way they always had. Finally, the council leader spoke. She was Krill, like Velshara, but older and even more imposing. "We will hear from the human." "Commander Jiwoo, you requested this audience speak." Every eye in the room turned to her. Jiwoo felt the weight of their attention, their doubt, their barely hidden contempt. To them, she was still a primitive from a backwater world. The fact that she kept winning battles only made them more suspicious. "The swarm is a hive mind," Jiwoo began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "It learns patterns. It adapts to strategies. Every time you attack the same way, it gets better at defending that way. You're teaching it how to beat you." "We use optimal military doctrine," the Crystal General said dismissively. "These tactics have won wars for thousands of years. Against enemies that think like you do," Jiwoo replied. "The swarm doesn't think like you. It's a single mind controlling billions of bodies. When it learns something in one place, every drone everywhere knows it instantly." "Then how do we fight it?" the council leader asked, her mandibles clicking with what might have been irritation or interest. "With chaos. With unpredictability. With individual soldiers making individual decisions that a hive mind can't predict or counter." "You mean humans," Velshara said. She had been standing silently in the back, her contempt for Jiwoo barely concealed. "Yes. I mean humans." The room erupted in protest, aliens shouting over each other, some in languages Jiwoo's translator couldn't quite process. The idea of giving humans more authority, more independence, was unthinkable to them. "Order," the council leader demanded. The room fell silent. "Commander Jiwoo, are you suggesting we allow humans to operate without oversight?" "I'm suggesting you let us fight our way. We've proven it works. Human casualties are down. Victory rates are up. The swarm can't predict what we'll do because we don't even know what we'll do until we do it." "That's not strategy," the Crystal General said. "That's anarchy." "It's adaptation," Jiwoo countered. "It's what humans do best. You conscripted us because you needed numbers. Now you need what makes us different from you. Our chaos, our individuality, our refusal to follow predictable patterns." "This is madness," Velshara said, stepping forward. "Humans are dangerous. Giving them military independence is asking for rebellion." "You're afraid of us," Jiwoo said, meeting Velshara's alien eyes. "You're afraid because we don't fit into your hierarchies. We question orders. We improvise. We refuse to be expendable. That terrifies you more than the swarm does." The room went completely silent. No one had ever spoken to Velshara like that. Jiwoo held her breath, wondering if she had gone too far. Then Overseer Tharn, the Vrex warrior who had supported humans from the beginning, spoke with his deep, rumbling voice. "The human speaks truth. We fear them because they are unpredictable. But that unpredictability is exactly what we need. The swarm is winning because we are too predictable. Perhaps it is time to embrace chaos." "You would give military authority to primitives?" the Crystal General asked. "I would give authority to those who win battles," Tharn replied. "Commander Jiwoo has lost fewer soldiers and achieved more victories than any commander in this room. Her methods are strange to us, but they work." The council leader was silent for a long moment, considering. Finally she spoke. "The council will vote. All in favor of granting operational independence to human military forces?" The vote was close. Some aliens voted yes because they had seen human victories. Some voted yes because they were desperate. Some voted no because they feared change. Some voted no because they feared humans. In the end, it passed by a single vote. "Commander Jiwoo," the council leader said, "you will have operational command of all human forces in coalition service. You will coordinate with alien forces but not be commanded by them. You will fight this war your way. If you fail, humanity will bear the consequences." "And if we succeed?" Jiwoo asked. "Then perhaps we will learn something." As Jiwoo left the chamber, Velshara followed her into the corridor. The alien commander moved with barely controlled anger. "You have made a mistake," Velshara said. "Humans are not ready for this responsibility." Were we ready to be soldiers? Jiwoo asked. You didn't ask. You just took us. You forced us to fight your war. Now we're winning it for you and you still think we're inferior. You are inferior. Weaker, slower, with shorter lifespans and primitive technology. And yet here I am, commanding your armies while you stand in the hallway complaining about it. For a moment, Jiwoo thought Velshara might attack her. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation, but then something changed in her expression. Something that might have been grudging respect. I still believe you will fail, Velshara said, but I hope I am wrong. Because if you fail, we all die. She walked away, leaving Jiwoo alone in the corridor. Later, Jiwoo met with her core team. Taeyang, Hierin, and Sangho gathered around a tactical display looking at star maps and troop deployments. They actually gave us independence, Taeyang said, shaking his head in disbelief. I never thought they would. They're desperate, Sangho said. And desperation makes people do things they never would otherwise. So now what? Hierin asked. We have authority, but we still have to actually win the war. Jiwoo looked at the star map. At the red markers showing swarm positions, at the blue markers showing coalition forces that were barely holding on. Now we plan, she said. Operation Broken Pattern. We're going to hit the swarm in every place they don't expect, with every tactic they can't predict. We're going to show them what happens when you fight humans who have nothing left to lose. Think we can win? Taeyang asked. Jiwoo thought about her old life. The invisible girl eating lunch alone. The quiet student no one remembered. She had been underestimated her entire life. Now an entire galaxy was underestimating her species. They made a mistake conscripting us, Jiwoo said. They should have asked. We fight better when it's our choice. When we're fighting for something we believe in. Now they'll see what humans do when you give us a reason to fight. She looked at her friends, these people who had become family. We're going to win. Not because we're stronger or smarter or better equipped, but because we're human, and humans don't quit. Outside, the war raged on. But inside this room, hope flickered like a candle in the dark. The invisible girl had been given command of an army. Now she would show the galaxy why that was the best decision they never wanted to make.